under-recognized role in the whole Soviet Jewry movement, and has been a friend of Etz Chaim, and from time to time has graced us with words of Musar and Torah from the pulpit, and was served in this particular case as Shadchan for this evening's program. I'd like to ask Glenn Richter to come up and introduce our speaker much better than I could.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Rosenberg. First of all, it's a pleasure being back here. Kew Garden Hills is where I grew up, and where I grew up was really the area, the time of the beginning of the Soviet Jewry movement. There are people here whom I have known from the very beginning. Ellen Mineker, Jan Fenster, Henry Gerber, people who really have been involved from the beginning in the struggle to get Soviet Jews. There's much to say. I'll just tell you some of the bare facts of the particular case. Yosef grew up to Yiddish-speaking communist parents in Riga, Latvia, and as a child and as a teenager, he developed a Jewish identity. Yosef, and again, Yosef will expand on various parts of this, Yosef helped create the Riga Jewish Underground, but more than that, he became the national editor of a national samizdat, or underground Jewish newspaper. And you probably remember the story that in 1970, a group of Jews decided that they were so desperate to get to Israel, being blocked from leaving for Israel by the Soviet authorities, they decided to hatch a plan, which Yosef will tell you more about, to try to get out, fly under the radar, take a plane, fly under the radar, and get to freedom. What we had at that time in the student struggle for Soviet Jewry was one grainy photo of Yosef. I don't know, it looks like you as a teenager, actually, with sort of a white yarmulke on, if I remember, and, like looking down a little bit. And that's the only thing we remember. Remember this, Ellen? Yeah? Okay, so that was it. That's what we knew. And slowly from the Gulag emerged a picture which was much clearer, a picture of Yosef, the man, and the uncompromising Jew. The Jew who decided that he may not know everything about Yahadut, but he was going to stand up to the Soviet authorities and not let his captors get the better of him. And Yosef became not only a symbol, but an inspiration to all of us. He certainly is one of my great heroes. I think he was is a hero of much of the Jewish community that remembers the Soviet Jewry movement. But his words tonight are not just about history. History, as we all know, is something that goes and passes. We have to remember it, we have to learn from it. But there are things that endure. And the things that endure are the issues of emunah, of faith, the issue of spiritual connection to Eretz Yisrael, the idea of holding fast and being able to overcome life's greatest challenges. Yosef Mendelevich.
Thank you very much, Rabbi and Glenn. No, I said Rabbi and Glenn, and Rabbi Glenn. Okay, I will, I understood that you were involved and you know a lot about the struggle. So I will simply tell you some stories that are written in my book. And I will try somehow to keep it close to Pesach, for we are now entering Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Pesach is Yortzeit of my mother, Gimel Nisan, and my uncle, Dalet Nisan, so it's very important for me as well. To begin with Pesach. As a matter of fact, my life can be so far divided in different parts. My childhood, which was very important for me, and then becoming a part of underground Jewish movement in Soviet Russia, and then this plot of taking over a Russian airplane, the arrest, the trial, whatever is by itself, and then imprisonment, trying keeping mitzvahs in a prison, and certainly a very substantial part after my release, the second part of the book, that I don't believe that ever would be written for, you are writing your book with your blood and your flesh, and it's much more important even than words. Anyway, I will live over my childhood, and even the explanation how I became a part of this underground movement. For I promised to tell funny stories, so I will begin telling stories. How we come up to this decision to take over the Russian airplane. It happened that Jews were not permitted to leave, obviously, and in fact, Jews were afraid to approach and ask for permission to leave, for it would mean that you identify yourself with Zionism, with Israel, and then you can be fired from your job or from your, if you study in college and university. So it was dangerous. People normally sit back and wouldn't do anything. But then, being already a member of our underground movement, I decided that we have to try harder, not only, to make all kind of calculations, just to go to the office. It was called OVIR, I believe Glenn knows, and OVIR, it's called the Department of Granting Permission to Leave, which was not true. Never would they grant permission, but they had office like that. And that time, it was 1968, I applied already twice, and I believe I was from the first Refuseniks. For that time, not people would apply for permission to leave. And when I got these kind of refusals, I come to the office to interview the head of the office, and I asked, why wouldn't you permit us to leave? For we found that my father has a brother in Bat Yam, just to unificate our family that was not only parted, killed, whatever, murdered during the Second World War. And he answered me, the man told me, what he told, you understand, Ben, if we send you to Israel, you will become a soldier in Israel army, and you will fight against our brethren Arabs. We never send reinforcement to our enemies. You better, he told me, you studied to become an engineer, so accomplish your studies and build our country. It's better, and then you will die here and never see Israel. Forget about that. And now go away. So I say my experience at the time in the underground movement was to have Seder Pesach as an experience, just to find groups and people that were ready to invite me to show them how to keep Pesach. And of course I was myself ignorant, almost ignorant, and then they as well. So still I had Agadah of Pesach translated in Russian language, somehow smuggled in Soviet Russia in the 60s through the Israeli embassy. So I would tell this story, and when I was out from the office, I recollected that it's exactly the way that the Pharaoh treated Moshe and Aaron. For Moshe and Aaron come to ask for permission to leave to Israel, and instead the Pharaoh would tell, forget about that, you have to build our country, our pyramids, and if you will be more involved in production, you will have no time to think about this kind of Neuigkeiten of going to Israel. So I thought, interestingly, some 3,500 years passed by, but the Soviet power is speaking the same language, A Jew is asking for permission to leave. Instead, he's telling, go to build our country. What's connection? I don't see any connection. And then I do remember that it's written, B'yad chazaka hotzion Hashem miMitzrayim. Is obviously, never we can expect that the power will grant us permission for nothing. We have to struggle for that. Yad chazaka, we believe in our underground that we are the strong arm of Kadosh Baruch Hu, that we have to do that. And as we know, as the story says, Vayizak Israel Vishma Hashem. It was our outcry We would like to go to Israel. We are dying to do that. And things happened. And I would describe it in a way as like an agadah. The moment Ribono Shel Olam heard that Soviet Jewry would like to go and to become free Jews, he consulted his angels, Malachim, and asked who we shall send, to bring freedom to Soviet Jewry. And a certain Malach told this one man. Everybody looked. What, him? Not me. Not me, it was somebody else. Okay, but they accepted this advice. And it was a Soviet communist, an officer in Russian army, a pilot, Mr. Dimshitz. The moment Kadosh Baruch Hu decided that he has to be a tool in bringing freedom to Soviet Jewry, all of a sudden told to himself, what I am doing here in the Russian army? My nation, Jewish nation, is under the danger of the Arabs. It was on the verge of 67. So I have to go as a Russian pilot. I am better than anybody. They believed that the Russian Air Force is the best one in the world. So I have to go to Israel and instruct Israeli pilots to struggle against the Arabs. So it's how he was fired from a Soviet army, and he went to a bigger place, which is now called St. Petersburg. That time it was Leningrad. It was all Ashgoche. So now Mr. Dimshitz is coming to St. Petersburg with his family. He was already married and has 2 daughters. And he come at the evening after his work, would come to a library, look for books, some Jewish history or Aleph Beit, and he found an Aleph Beit book published not in Soviet Russia in 1913. That means before the revolution. So he started looking at this Aleph Beit book and start copying letters, hoping that once he will be able to study it. So next to him, another guy seated in the library and looked to Mr. Dimshitz and smiled. Mr. Dimshitz got very nervous, and he told him, what you are smiling at me? You Russian took away our Jewish tradition, our Jewish education, and you smile at me that I am copying the letters of my Aleph Beit. And the man told him, don't shout. I am myself Jewish. So he told, why you are smiling? For a simple reason, he told. I see that you would like to study Hebrew, and I am myself a teacher in Hebrew in underground Ulpan. So it is Ashgocha that Kadosh Baruch Hu brought together this pilot and one of the heads of Jewish underground in Leningrad, in St. Petersburg. For that time, there was a committee, a Zionist committee in Leningrad, built from teachers of Hebrew. That's each of them, there were some 5 or 6 groups that studied Hebrew, and they would meet together to decide and make decision, whatever. So Mr. Dimshitz entered this class, and it was not a real ulpan in terms of Israel, say, with tens of hundreds of students. It was a small place with some 3 or 4 young boys sitting there. But when Mr. Dimshitz entered the class, he saw young men, for he served when in Soviet army on the border with China and never saw any other Jew. So he believed himself that he is the only one Jew that remained true to Am Yisrael. All of a sudden he discovered that there's much more than that. So he told, you are studying Hebrew in Golis, in Russia, you never can succeed. You have to study Hebrew only in Israel. But then they told, there is no way to study Hebrew in Israel. We are not permitted to leave. Okay, he told them, you are a young man. You like soldiers. You expect somebody will permit you to go. You have to fight for that. So it is how he come up with a brilliant idea to take over a Russian airplane and run away. And it is how it came from Leningrad to Riga. As Glenn mentioned, at that time I became an editor of a national underground newsletter about our Jewish case, and people would come to see me from different places. So a guy from Leningrad came and told me, Yosef, would you ready to run away from Soviet Russia? I told immediately, yes, sure, I am ready every moment. He laughed. He wouldn't expect this prompt answer. He told me, think again. Maybe you consider that it is dangerous, that you may be killed or when running away, or maybe arrested. Why you answered immediately? So I told, all my life I am looking for that. For there is no life for me in Russia. So even I told I have 1% of success. For me, it's my 100%. No life for a Jew in Soviet Russia. Okay, so he told, now I will give you more details. There is Mr. Dimshitz, a pilot, that is suggesting us to take over a Russian airplane and run away. Okay, so I start looking for some other people. As far we did met people in the underground. Not simply I wouldn't go in the street and ask people, to join. It was my friends in the underground, people that willingly participated already in something that was anyway dangerous. They could be arrested for that. So each man that I would approach was glad and excited like me, I remember a friend of mine that embraced me and kissed me and told, I'm thankful you. I told Arya, why you are thankful, maybe I am sending you to death. No, you don't understand. If I would hear later that there was an attempt like that and you forgot me, I would hate me for all my life, that I lost this opportunity, to try to do something for my nation. It's the way we felt. And I had another friend that differently, after he agreed, later on he came up and told me, Yosef, don't you think that we wouldn't think about small details? We maybe have to sit again and again and analyze it. I told him, Tzvi, his name was Tzvi, Tzvi, I know that we didn't do it, we didn't think in small details, and it's good, Why is that good? I told, for if we think logically about everything, we may come to the conclusion that it is impossible. And we would like to be it possible, so better not to think. It's the case when you, from one hand, you have logic, and from another hand, will, ratzon. It's koach ratzon. It's then using koach ratzon, you can think logically, but not the opposite. Anyway, it's somehow it come about. As a matter of fact, Mr. Dimshitz read in a newspaper, in local newspaper, that the time that so the Russian air float opened a new flight that would bring a certain airplane, a small one, close to Finnish border. So he called up from Leningrad to our group in Riga, telling that there is something, a new flight, that it is schemed exactly for us, trimmed for us. He wouldn't, guess how true he was. And then what was good about this flight, for it would bring us indeed close to Finnish border, and the airplane would land in a forest, for it was schemed like for tourists. So there was no personnel on the spot, just the pilots in the plane. One of them would open the door to let the tourists go out. So we figured the moment he would open the door, we will bind his hands and legs and leave him over, and then we will take another pilot and leave him in the forest for a while to have a rest, not to harm, chas v'sholom, not to hurt anything, just, very, very mildly to put him aside, then take the plane for Finland. It's Baltic Sea, and we figured that Finland has an agreement with Soviet Union to give away everybody that would try to escape. without even questioning, automatically. So we had to go furthermore to Sweden, and then we planned landing in Sweden to have a press conference and call for upon world Jewry, to support our struggle. For if you remember, in the 60s, mostly people believed that there are no Am Yisrael not high in Soviet Russia, that the majority got assimilated, believe in communist doctrine, and not willing to live. So we have to publicize our case and say that there are hundreds of thousands and even millions that are willing to go to be free Jews. So it was our scheme. When we arrived to the airport, I remember the moment that we started going to the airplane, and I was so proud and so excited that I'm fighting for the freedom of my nation. It was really a privilege to feel yourself. I read a lot of Mordechai Mendelevich, Zichrono Livracha, a lot of Yosef Trumpeldor, and I dreamt to be part of this struggle, and all of a sudden, unbelievable, look at me, now I am a part of the same struggle for the freedom of our Am Yisrael, so excited. And then all of a sudden, friends looked at my direction. I was the last in the row, so I looked what they're looking for. I understood that Mr. Dimshit is missing. For some reason we did saw him coming to the airport, and all of a sudden he disappeared. So I was afraid that maybe he is already arrested. I decided that I have to run to look for Mr. Dimshit and for his family, for I did remember that he was sitting close to the airport. So I started running out from the field, and indeed I saw him with his family sitting and eating breakfast. He had a guitar, and he was something doing with his guitar. I got so angry, I told Mark, we are already on the way to Israel, and you are eating sandwiches. What's going on? So he checked his watch, and he told, it's too early. According to the timetable, we have to board 9 o'clock. It is only 8:30 now. I forgot about it. Remember, you are Russian army. Everything has to be accurate, but it is not army. So things change. Okay, he told me. Tell friends go back. Tell friends that I am joining, and he started gathering his belongings. So I was excited twice. I felt that I'm even, going fly to myself for my excitement. So I ran back. And the moment I entered the airfield, I was beaten. I was thrown on the beton, and my hands were handcuffed. When I stood up, I saw all my friends already arrested. And there were a lot of Russian soldiers, hundreds of them, paratroopers, and the police, whatever, dogs, something terrible, like a military operation. And then I heard shootings. I turned around and I saw Mr. Dimshit was wounded, and the blood was running from his face. It was something terrible. His wife cried, small daughters were afraid, It was real tragedy. And imagine the moment I was out already to way to Eretz Israel, and all of a sudden everything fell down. We understood that we were watched and followed by the police, and it is how we were arrested. Immediately, I was brought to interrogation, to a small room, and there were two colonels, investigators for heavy tasks, security tasks, and they announced me that they have an order to arrest me for they have information that a group of Jewish terrorists is trying to harm state security, to take over a Russian airplane, and to betray their Soviet motherland, and to run away to from Soviet Union. And then in the order of the arrest was written, if things turn to be true, you will get death penalty. So sign down. I was ready to die for Am Yisrael. But I figured now I have to be under interrogation and then trial, and then maybe I will be sentenced to death. So I have to sit in a cell on expect when I will be taken to be executed. I told, no, it is not for me, You need to be a hero, like Mendelevich, Trumpeldor, Yehuda Maccabi. But not me, I'm a regular Nebuch, a Jewish student in Soviet Russia. I'm not a hero. But nobody asked me, That's no freedom of decision. I have to be a hero. So I told, you would like me to sign, but you bind my hands. They had simply, not. I told handing, they had simply ropes to put on the hands. So I cannot sign, for it's, I don't, the blood wouldn't stream in my veins. So they loosened the ropes, and I read it again, and I told, no, in no way, I am not signing it. You laughed at me, and you for nothing, we loosened the ropes, bind it stronger, that he will lose his hands, and we shall take him to interrogation, and he will tell us everything. So it is how I went to this prison of KGB, and they start questioning everybody. Some more people were arrested, and not only us, our students, all people that were involved in our movement. So it was a time of complete lose. We felt that we lost, and even I felt myself guilty that other people are arrested. So it was a very bad time, questioning, interrogation, and whatever. And then later on, after, as I used to say, from my experience, when a lot of people are arrested, there is always a weak link in the chain that will be broken. 50 people, certainly there is somebody that feels that he is not ready to sacrifice his life. He starts talking, giving facts, and then they invite somebody else and tell, no, your friend is cleverer than you. He is already cooperated. So what about you? So the second one would give up, and finally, in a very short time, they would know everything, all details, all preparation. So they asked me later, after 3 weeks of interrogation, so what about you, Mendelevich? You are not cooperating, don't give away names. Are you not afraid of us? I told them, no, somehow I'm not afraid of us. I'm ready for everything. So they told, a normal person is afraid being in KGB prison. If you are not afraid, there is something wrong with you. You are maybe insane. You have mental problems. And they sent me to a mental institution with still, it was a specific mental institution, so-called psychiatrical institution in Moscow, named by Professor Shepsky. And then KGB officers entered my cell and told me, no, if you cooperate and give away names, okay. If not, we shall treat you with the medicines, and we shall admit that you are an insane person, and forever you will remain here in this hospital, and you will be treated, and you will get crazy altogether. So it was a real torture for me, to make a decision. Anyway, Baruch Hashem, I went all through of it. And it's another story. Everything is in a book, so I have to make it shorter. I understand people have to go home, so I will make it shorter. Anyway, another story. When, in fact, their goal to arrest us red-handed at the airport was just to break us and to make us confess that we are guilty, and then blame everything on world Jewry, that it's world Jewry and Zionism that make us to decide to take over to hijack a Russian plane. We have to blame world Jewry and call FNU and tell, don't care about Soviet Jews. We are satisfied, or everything is okay, we are ready to assimilate, whatever. It means that they would like to use us, the strugglers, the fighters, to be their plaything and to work against Am Yisrael. For people indeed were broken. They start cooperate, give away names. Other people were arrested. So they believed that it is very close. And the real miracle happened during the trial. The trial, if some people remember, was in December 1970, but which is much more important, on Hanukkah. It was a Hanukkah. So the first man to be questioned and to play his role in this big performance that the KGB staged was Mr. Dimshitz himself. They told Mr. Dimshitz, you were a Soviet officer, you were a member of Communist Party. How you come about at all to betray your motherland? And then Mr. Dimshitz come up and told, I accuse the Soviet power in harming Am Yisrael. You closed all our cultural and religious institutions. You try to assimilate us. You are anti-Semites. You prevent us from getting better jobs being Jewish or whatever. It is why there is no place for Jews in Soviet Russia. It means altogether against what they would expect from him to behave. For he really had something to lose. He was a ringleader, so certainly he'll get a death penalty. And he had his wife in prison and his small girls arrested. So, but he was enough courageous to make this kind of a statement. And so it went on. And I remember Mrs. Zalmanson, and maybe some of you remember Silva Zalmanson. They figured that for a woman, it's very difficult to be in prison. And we heard her crying in the cell. So they believed that she is broken. And she was the second one, according to their scenery, to play the role of their victim. So Silva, what's the reason you tried to escape to Israel, to betray your motherland? And Silva told, for we all Jews, from our childhood, would swear, if I forget you, whatever. So, what's the translation? And Silva translated in Russian language. The judge felt that everything is lost, no expectation. Their scheme wouldn't work. The performance they expected for us to be part of it fall down. So, finally, I was asked as well, Mendelevich, what's the reason you tried to escape? And I told, Kadosh Baruch Hu gave Eretz Israel to Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and I am their grandchild, so it's the reason that I have to be there. It's my land. Okay, there was a prosecutor that told, in vain you asked Mendelevich, don't you know that he is a religious fanatic, and he dreams only about his Torah, mitzvahs, and Eretz Israel, which I was not at the time a religious fanatic. I was almost ignorant, but I felt very pleased to have this, comment on myself. And it happened that really two of us, Mr. Dimshitz and Eduard Kuznetsov, got death penalties. And I got 15 years of imprisonment for trying to harm Soviet security, 15 years of imprisonment trying to take over a Russian airplane, and 7 years of imprisonment for my underground activities. And then our friends that were not arrested, specifically my sister, Yeva, managed to, from Leningrad, to go to Moscow and to meet Professor Sakharov and give the whole information what's happening. Professor Sakharov took my sister to meet foreign journalists. That time it was illegal to meet foreign journalists, but he was not afraid. He was the father of the atom bomb, so he took and she had a press conference and telling whatever happened on our trial. So, and then you got the information. I believe that Glenn remembers very well. All of a sudden, big news, Soviet Jews, a group of Soviet Jews arrested and get death and life penalties for their willingness to go to Israel. I say, we planned to have a press conference in Sweden, but making this kind of declaration in the court was even stronger, you know. For that time, we were victims, and we still not afraid to declare our love to Israel, to Am Yisrael, whatever. So, as you know, in a short time, under the pressure of the world public opinion, world jury, all the death penalties were cancelled, and all other verdicts were softened. So finally, Mr. Dimshitz and Kuznetsov got 15 years of imprisonment, and I got only 12 years of imprisonment. And there we were sent to serve our time in Ural Mountains. And then I decided that now my struggle is to keep mitzvahs. For if, you are among hundreds of other prisoners, you became like them. You are losing your identity. So I decided that to keep me strong and to remain myself, I have to be a strong Jew. And it happened that when I arrived to the prison, to the labor camp, I was met by another Jewish guy, Shimon Grilius, that is now a Russian rabbi in Yerushalayim, and he told me, Yosef, I was arrested some 3 years ago, and I decided that he was arrested for his democratic activities, trying to improve the Soviet regime. And then he decided to become a religious Jew. But he told me, I don't know anything about Judaism. Maybe you can instruct me. So I told him, Shimon, we have to keep Shabbos, to eat kosher food, and to get Siddur and Chumash, to start praying and whatever, all tradition. He told that there is no way to do that, for everything is forbidden. What kosher food? We have only one kitchen that cooks for everybody, and we don't know whatever they give us to eat. If you don't eat, you simply die, and etc. etc. So I told Shimon, we have no way out. We have to figure how to do that. And then I told, at least can we make kippahs, yarmulkes? He told, that's easy to do. For I see, he told me, I have long pants. So if we cut our pants, I have a needle and a thread. If you know how to sew, you can make a kippah for me and for you. So it was my first step in Jewish tradition that we put on yarmulkes. And later on, some Russian officers come from Moscow to check, and they noticed that I have a yarmulke. And one colonel asked me to come up and ask, what's on your head? I told, it's a Jewish tradition. Every Jew is covering his head. He listened to my declaration, and he told, I understand you are religious. It's you can be religious. We don't forbid to be religious, but not outside. It's in your heart. It depends on you. But when you put on yarmulke, it's like a religious demonstration. You try to influence others. It's forbidden. More than that, he told. I have a list of uniforms that permitted for prisoners, and there is no yarmulke written in it. So you are simply breaking the rules of the prison. And if you wouldn't remove on the spot your yarmulke, you will be punished for that. So it started. They would punish us for having yarmulke, and Mr. Grillis had longer pants, so I had enough clothes to make more yarmulkes, and finally they give up, for some reason. But then it happened. My father would come to see me once in a year. We had the permission to see our relatives, and then when he come, they told me, you have a meeting with your father, but you're breaking the rules of the prison. So remove the yarmulke, otherwise we will cancel your meeting. I told him, no way. It's our tradition, it's our precept. I can't remove a yarmulke. Okay, so your meeting is cancelled. And it went on for 7 years. you know. So I never could see my father. And for I felt, first of all, I did know, afilu srochanal, as we know, that if a goy feels that it is very important for a Jew to do that, you have to die for that, and you can't give up. And then I did know something else, that if you give up in something small, they will understand that you are a weak person, they will crash upon you and break you altogether. So it was like a border that I cannot step back. And it happened that my father passed away, and I never see him because of yarmulke. Now, something else. I assume that you are exhausted, so I will tell you a story about Pesach, and we shall go home. Later on, I was sentenced for 3 years of specific harsh imprisonment for keeping Shabbos, Torah, and mitzvahs, and sent in a notorious prison, Vladimir. And then, things happened. It was a real miracle there that, in fact, it turned out that in Vladimir we have no work, no occupation. So instead of punishing me for keeping Sabbath, I was privileged for 3 years not to work on Sabbath at all. Yeah. As we say, mitzvah goreret mitzvah. If you do something good you deserve more. And you will see in my book a picture with talis cotton there that I made in a prison. Again, for the reason that in Vladimir it was possible. Thanks to it of keeping Sabbath, I had the privilege to have a chumash illegally in the cell, and tzitzis and Shabbos. For one mitzvah, I got 3 mitzvahs more. Anyway, one day I told to a friend that I was seated that time in a cell with Hillel Butman, that is living now in Yerushalayim in Ramot. I told Hillel, what to have a Seder Pesach in the cell. Pesach is coming, let's have a Seder Pesach. He told me, you are crazy. How we can have a Seder Pesach in our condition? Okay, I know that he is a very stubborn person. It's in vain to quarrel with him. Okay, I told I will arrange it by myself. As a matter of fact...
Which prison? Vladimir?
Vladimir prison. All of it is in the book in more small details. Anyway, and then, as a matter of fact, we would get once in a half year 2 pounds of food permitted from out of the prison. So I arranged with my sisters at that time already were in Israel to send me before Pesach 2 pounds of matzahs. So when I got the parcel of matzahs, I saw that all the matzahs are breaking in small pieces, and I asked, why you break it? He told, we looked at the matzahs, it's something written in there. So it was a secret letter, so we broke that he couldn't read out what's written there. And then I start thinking, okay, I have to prepare Pesach, and I had a postcard from Israel with a plate of Pesach, Karash al Shabbat, from one plate from Germany in the 18th century in a museum in Jerusalem Museum. They have all kind of antiques. So there was a plate. So looking at the plate, I can recollect what specifically I need for Pesach. And then on the postcard was the whole seder. Rachatz v'yachatz, Kadesh, all of it. So I can simply write down for my memory, for I thought, as I mentioned, I was an instructor in keeping Pesach, so I remembered somehow. So I wrote my Haggadah of Pesach from memory. And then another miracle happened, that there was flu in the prison, and as medicine, they give to every prisoner an onion. for they didn't have medicine. They believed that onion is good protective for flu. So each of us got a small onion and immediately ate it, for it was maybe for a long time they saw a vegetable, a raw vegetable. But I figured that out from the leaves, of green leaves of the onion, I can make maror. So I put it in water on the window, and they laughed at me and they told, "What you are making? You're growing flowers. You eat it, But I have another plan, and then walking out from my exercise yard. For there in the prison, we were permitted to walk out on the roof of the building. They had special cells, small cells, for each person that we would never meet other. Normally when you look in a movie, you see prisoners going in exercise yard like around and around, but it's not in a KGB prison. You never see any other person. But still, on the top of the building, there are small cells without roof, and just grates on it. So at least, to have some fresh air. And then stepping out from the exercise yard, I noticed that in a second one, there is some kind of green leaf is growing down from the asphalt. And as far as we ate grass in a prison, in a labor camp, I didn't know. I find out that it is eatable. So I figured that I can use it for a karpas. Now I had to make a plan how to get this green leaf, for it was in a different exercise yard, which I was not permitted to enter. Anyway, I look at it, by itself it is a symbol. A green leaf is growing on the roof of the prison, and breaking even the asphalt of it. Unbelievable. Ida Nudel, you remember the name, would send me egg powder. So I feel that I can, from the egg powder, make an egg, beitza for Seder Pesach. And then yain, wine. My father, Olav Shalom, sent me, when I was under interrogation, 2 pounds of raisins, which later on, when I was already in a labor camp, I wasn't permitted to get raisins. So I kept it to use it for kiddush, for I was not that educated, and I believed that a raisin are priagefen, right? So I can bless it, bur priagefen, instead of having wine. So each Sabbath I economized and used only 2 raisins. So it was the 10th year of my imprisonment. So I had a handful of raisins, and I decided to make wine of it. So each day we would get a spoonful of sugar. I collected sugar for a month, so I had I assume some 150 grams of sugar. I had a bottle, put in the bottle my raisins and sugar and water, and put it under my board, my sleeping board. I figured for a month it can make wine. So, and then the day before Pesach, remember it, Erev Pesach, I stepping out from my exercise yard, I run to this second place, and I pluck this green leaf. The Russian guard became angry and told, "What you do? It is illegal." I told, "Sergeant, it is a very healthful, a very healthy plant. It's very healthy for forever." And Russian guards are good people. He was interested, got interested, and he told me, "Tell me more about the values of this plant." So it is how I get it inside the cell. And then before Pesach, I asked the guard to give me Pravda. They had a newspaper, or communist propaganda for. I figured that I need to make a plate, karat of Pesach. We didn't have paper instead, so I decided that I will make karat of Pesach from Pravda. And then when the guard come to take away Pravda to give to other prisoners, I told no, there was somebody else that took already. I don't have this newspaper. This day, Pravda had really a real task. So I made out from Pravda like a circle to be like Kara of Pesach, and I wrote everything, Beitza, Maror, whatever, Karpas and Zroa, whatever, and I prepared everything, covered it with a blanket, and I told, no, Hillel, let us sit at the table and have a Passover. He laughed and he told you, I told you already, what, you are so stubborn. It's impossible to have Seder Pesach in the prison. So I opened my Kara of Pesach. He looked at it and he told, indeed, you have a Beitza and you have a Karpas and you have a Maror, but you don't have wine. So I took out the bottle from the bottom of my board, and I never checked it, for I was not sure whether it became wine. He opened the cork, smelled, and he told me, oh, indeed, it is wine. If so, let's sit and have a Seder Pesach. So we had a beautiful Seder Pesach, and he told me in the end, he told me, believe me, for the first time in my life, I have Seder Pesach al pi halacha. Ridiculously, he was a grown man, like 40 years old. Only just to understand the situation with Soviet Jewry, you have to go in a prison to have a Seder Pesach ki halacha. So, next morning, Mr. Butman was taken away from the cell, and he disappeared. We couldn't know what happened with him. After a month, by chance, I was in exercise yard next to Nathan Sharansky. So I asked him, what happened with Butman? He told me, sure, he told me I had a meeting with my mother, and she told that all people from Leningrad trial, including Dimshitz and Kuznetsov, are released, and they are already in Israel. So what about me? I am lost there, It was. It took another 2 years that people in the prison would say, why you're not released? For you're religious. Stop being religious and you will be released. But I never believed that the reason was different, and I did know that the reason why I'm not released was different. Anyway, I was already almost 11 years in the prison, and I told Ribono Shel Olam, I know that Eretz Yisrael niknet b'yisurim. You have to deserve the privilege to be in Israel going through experiences. So I told Eretz Yisrael is in Gematria 11. So I thought maybe, who knows, with my 11 years of imprisonment, I deserved already Aleph Yud of your Eretz Yisrael. And it happened. Mamish, during a month, I was removed from my prison in Ural Mountains to Moscow, Lefortovo prison. I was afraid that maybe they start another trial against me, for I break their rules and I teach the other Jewish fellows to be religious. I was not aware what is happening. 2 weeks later, I was brought to the office of the head of the prison, and there were 3 men, 2 colonels, and one private in the private dresses. He stood up, took a piece of paper, and he told me, I will announce the declaration of the Supreme Soviet. That time it was their government. Supreme Soviet decides that because of the bad behavior of this man, Mendelevich, he doesn't deserve to be anymore our Soviet citizen. We cancel his citizenship and throw him away from Soviet Russia. So we have to thank God ברוך אתה השם אלוקינו אשר עשה לי נס במקום הזה. He asked me, what you are telling, what you are saying. I told, I am blessing for the miracles that happen. He told me, see how wrong, how bad you are. You grow up, you got your education here. It's your motherland. We send you away from your motherland and you enjoy it. You're really a scoundrel. Anyway, they put me in a big black limousine, escorted by this colonel, and directly from the prison, they would bring me to the airport. Coming up to the airplane, I talked to the colonel that escorted me, for I figured that he may be the head of Jewish department of KGB. And I told him, see, you arrested us 11 years ago in an airport to prevent us to go to Israel. And I did know that that time, it was 1981, already 300,000 Jews got permission to leave. So I told, you know, we win the battle, not you. And you have now to let all the Jews go outside. If not, your empire will crash. Understand, I was still in his hands, but I felt that if enemy retreats, you have to strike him. So I told him, your empire will go down if you don't permit all Am Yisrael to go away. And he answered in a very strange way. He told me, you know, we never could believe that you, Jewish people, have the strong will of you. You know, Russian consider Jews Kurds, you know. And all of a sudden he confessed that we are not Kurds, we are strong people, we have a strong will. And as I finish this kind of story, I say, I'm not a strong person, you know. And if somebody says that I have a strong will, I know it is not. I know that it's not my strong will. That's the will of Kadosh Baruch Hu. He is willing to bring his Am Yisrael back home, Torah mitzvahs, and it is why nobody can withstand his will, as we say, Ein davar haomed bifnei haratzon. Haratzon, it means the will of Kadosh Baruch Hu. So I was sent directly to Israel, and it turned to be Purim. So, you know, it's Naapocho. They would like to prevent us, arrested, and they felt that it is their victory. Finally, it turned out that it's their end. Baruch Hashem, Shechiyanu v'kimanu v'higiyanu lezman hazeh. Thank you very much.